Today, we have 3 stories about mysterious events that truck drivers encounter on the road. The first story, Upper Peninsula wolf encounter. Trapped in the deep woods of Michigan, facing something scarier than a pack of wolves. The second story, the black SUVs in the desert. Mysterious SUVs vanish into the Nevada desert under the cover of darkness. Lastly, woman on the highway trap. A woman on an empty road at night. Bait for a deadly trap. All 3 stories were inspired by sources on Reddit. Enjoy the stories. Story 1. I used to deliver machines for a living, driving long hours through all kinds of places. But there's one night in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan I'll never forget. I was already behind schedule because the truck I rented had been giving me trouble the day before. The rental company checked it out and said it was fine, but I wasn't so sure. Anyway, I had 12 machines in the back of my 26-foot box truck, and since I was running late, I decided to drive through the night to my next stop. It was about 11 p.m., and I was deep in the UP, driving down some dark state route. No lights, no other cars, just the glow from my headlights cutting through the endless trees. I was already feeling uneasy, like I was in the middle of nowhere, because I was in the middle of nowhere. The silence was deafening. And then, out of nowhere, the truck died. Every single light on the dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree, and the engine just quit. No sputtering, no warning. I coasted to a stop, and suddenly it was pitch black. The only light came from my hazard lights, flickering in the void of the night. I tried restarting it, but no luck. Instead of draining the battery, I turned everything off and started making calls. As I was trying to get a hold of someone, I caught movement in front of the truck, just outside the reach of the flashing hazards. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but then, there it was again. Something, or someone, was moving out there. My heart started pounding. I finally got a mechanic on the phone, and he said it'd be at least 2 to 3 hours before they could send someone out. I was stuck. And there I was, sitting in this dark, silent forest, with only the rhythmic clicking of the hazard lights for company. Every now and then, I'd see that movement again, just barely out of range of the lights. Then my phone rang, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was the mechanic. He wanted me to get out, pop the hood, and check a few things. I flat out told him, "No, I'm not getting out of the truck." I tried to explain why, but he didn't seem to get it. I didn't care. I wasn't about to step outside. After what felt like an eternity, I decided to flick on the headlights, and my heart nearly stopped when the beams lit up 3 massive wolves just feet from my truck, gnawing on something that looked like roadkill. I honked the horn, but they barely flinched, just stared at me like I was the one bothering them. I knew wolves wouldn't likely mess with me, but it was still unsettling to have them that close. I turned the lights off again and went back to sitting in the dark. Every few minutes I'd flick the lights back on to check if the wolves were still there. They were. But then, after a while, they were gone. That's when I heard it. A scream. Not just any scream, but a blood-curdling woman-in-terror kind of scream. It came from right behind the truck. Before I could react, something slammed into the side of the truck so hard it rocked the whole cab. I grabbed the steering wheel, my knuckles white, and flicked on every light the truck had. There was another loud crash, and I saw something, some kind of shadow, dart across the road. I couldn't make out what it was, but my brain was running wild, conjuring up every kind of monster imaginable. Werewolves, Bigfoot, you name it. Whatever it wasn't human. I noticed the wolves were long gone, and that freaked me out even more. Predators don't leave a meal unless something bigger and scarier comes along. My mind was racing, and I was gripping the steering wheel like it could save me. Then finally, I saw headlights in my mirror. The mechanic. As his truck pulled up in front of mine, the scream came again, louder this time, followed by the sound of something thrashing in the brush. The mechanic didn't even get out. He called me, panicked, asking what the hell that noise was. I had no idea. He called the cops before he'd even touched the truck. 2 Michigan state troopers showed up. They lit up the area like a football field. But whatever was out there had already started to move away. We still heard the scream a few more times, though, each one further than the last. Even the cops didn't know what it was. After what felt like forever, the mechanic got the truck running, and I drove straight to my hotel, shaking the whole way. The next morning I inspected the side of the truck. There was an indentation, about the size of a basketball, about 7 feet off the ground. I have no idea what hit it, but it left a mark. Whatever it was, I'm never driving through the UP at night again. Story 2. I was headed into Vegas, driving through the desert at around 3 a.m. The road was practically deserted, just me and a few black SUVs up ahead. I'd been following them for about an hour, and something about them had caught my attention. They all had Nevada plates, but not normal ones. These were single digits, like 1, 2, and 3, lined up perfectly in order. At first, I brushed it off. I figured it was some kind of government convoy or maybe VIPs heading to a casino. Weird, sure, but not unheard of, especially near Vegas. Then things got strange. Out of nowhere, they all slowed down, and I thought they were going to exit the highway. But there wasn't an exit. Instead, they veered off onto this dirt path. No sign, no mile marker, not even a noticeable break in the desert landscape. It was just dust and sand, like the road didn't exist until they made it exist. And the way they did it, in perfect unison, like they knew exactly where they were going. I was curious, yeah, but something about it felt off. I slowed down just enough to watch what they were doing, but I didn't pull off with them. Once they were off the highway, all 3 SUVs came to a stop and turned off their headlights. Just like that, pitch black. No brake lights, no interior glow, nothing. I couldn't see a damn thing except the faint outline of their vehicles in the moonlight. My instincts screamed at me to keep driving. This was not a let's go check it out situation. I mean, middle of the desert, no lights, and these cars just disappear into the dark? No thanks. As I kept going, my mind started racing. What the hell were they doing? There wasn't a town or gas station for miles. Were they military? Some sort of secret operation? Hell, I didn't know. But the way they moved, so synchronized, like they had done this 1,000 times before, gave me chills. I glanced in my rearview mirror a few minutes later, half expecting to see those headlights pop back on and come speeding after me. But they never did. It was like they had vanished into the desert, swallowed up by the night. To this day, I still wonder where they were headed. Part of me wants to know, but the smarter part of me knows that's a secret I'm better off not finding out. Story 3. A few years back, I was driving late at night through the backwoods of West Virginia. If you've ever been through there, you know how isolated it can get. No houses, no lights, and the kind of darkness that feels thick, almost alive. It was around 1 a.m., and I hadn't seen another car for miles. My cell service was out too, just me and the road, with the occasional crunch of gravel beneath the tires. Suddenly, up ahead in my headlights, I spotted someone. It was a woman, standing on the side of the road, waving her arms like she was in some kind of distress. She wasn't hitchhiking, more like she was trying to flag me down. At first, my instinct was to slow down and help, but something about her posture, it didn't feel right. She wasn't panicking like you'd expect from someone stranded. She just stood there, calmly waving, like she was waiting for me. Then, as I got closer, my stomach dropped. She was standing in the middle of nowhere. No broken down car. No lights. No signs of anything nearby. And worse, she was barefoot, dressed in this thin nightgown, like she had just walked out of her house. Except there wasn't a house for miles. My brain started screaming at me. Don't stop. Something's wrong. I glanced to the side of the road as I passed her, and that's when I saw it. Just a few feet back, hidden in the tall grass, there was movement. I couldn't make out much, but there were definitely figures crouching there, like they were waiting. My heart raced, and without even thinking, I hit the gas, hard. As I sped past, I looked in the rearview mirror, and she hadn't moved. Still standing there, watching me, her hand slowly lowering, like she knew I wasn't coming back. I didn't stop until I reached a town nearly 30 miles later. Later, I talked to a few locals about it, and they all had the same reaction. They said there had been rumors of people pulling stunts like that, using someone as bait to lure drivers into stopping, then robbing them, or worse. No one ever knew what happened to the victims. Just that a few cars had been found abandoned, doors open, keys still in the ignition, but no trace of the drivers. I don't know what would have happened if I stopped that night, but I'm damn glad I didn't find out. Thank you all for listening to my stories. If you enjoyed them, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos.